Hello and welcome everyone to today's workshop on building a geo-distributed serverless app using Oracle NoSQL Database Cloud Service. My name is Tara Van Cleve and I'm a marketing event manager for the developer initiative here at Oracle. Today we're excited to show you how you can build a geo-distributed application providing real-time baggage information for airline customers from anywhere in the world. If you do not currently have an Oracle Cloud account, we've got a special promotion with extra credits so that you can try out the services and follow along with the lab steps today. We'll go over how to get started in just a minute. We'll also be recording the session, so if you'd like to complete the lab later on, we'll be sending the link to the recording via email shortly after the workshop concludes. If you have any questions during the workshop, please ask them in the Slack channel and we'll answer them throughout the session. The link to join is bit.ly/odevrel_Slack. Once you're in, you'll land in the general channel, and from there you can search for Lab Oracle NoSQL Database to reach our dedicated space for Q&A today. Today's workshop will be presented by Michael Bray, Director, Oracle NoSQL Database, Karen Makarala, Senior Product Manager, Oracle NoSQL Database, and Dario Vega, Product Manager, Oracle NoSQL Database. You can access the lab guide by following this link here, and I've placed it in the Slack channel and we'll also drop it in the chat in just a moment. But before I turn it over to Mike, we'll begin with a short clip presented by Victor Martin on how to set up your cloud account.
Hi, I'm Victor Martin from Oracle Cloud. I'm going to walk you through the steps to sign up for an Oracle Cloud free tier. Please follow along and pause the video when you need it. Oracle Cloud free tier gives you a set of always free cloud services. These services will be available forever. 2 autonomous databases, 2 virtual machines, up to 4 ARM processors virtual machines. You will also have a load balancer, block, object, and archive storage, monitoring, and much more. As part of your Oracle Cloud free tier, you will also have a 30-day trial with free credits to use in other services from analytics to Kubernetes. Sounds good, isn't it? Are you signing up for an upcoming workshop with us? Please make sure that you use the same email you use for the registration, as we have activated a special offer and you won't need your credit card to sign up. In any case, Oracle Cloud is not going to charge you for your trial. You actually have to explicitly tell us so when you are happy with all the Oracle Cloud services after your trial. Let's dive in. You need to add your country, then your first and last name. You also have to provide your email. Oracle Cloud has to check you are a human by asking you to resolve an easy challenge. Finally, click Verify my email to move to the next step. If your email has been activated for the offer, you will see the special Oracle offer pop-up window with the type of offer already selected. Then click Select Offer. All the initial information is already in. Now you have to provide a strong password. I use a generated one, but you can select any you like. Just make sure you are in compliance with the strong password pattern. Confirm the password by typing it again. Fill the company name if apply. The cloud account name is essential as it is a unique identifier for your account. Select a name you like that is not taken. The home region is the region where you are more likely to deploy resources. You can deploy to other regions by subscribing to them. However, your free trial only supports one region. Select a region geographically close to you if you are not sure. I'm selecting Frankfurt region. At the bottom, click Continue. Fill the address information with city, postcode, county, and your phone number. Click Continue. The final step is to accept the agreement and click Start my free trial. Oracle Cloud starts provisioning your account. This takes on average 1 minute or 2. Then you are going to be redirected to the Oracle Cloud web console. Can you see the message "Your account is currently being set up"? It means that some services will still be unavailable for a few more minutes. Just keep it in mind. When Oracle Cloud fully provisions your account, you will receive an email. I will show you that in a few seconds. Go to the menu to explore Oracle Cloud services. Also, the search bar is a friendly tool as you can search for compute instances, Kubernetes engine, analytics services, cost tools, user management, autonomous databases, Apex instances, and much more. On the right side, you will see the region you selected when you sign up. The next icon is Cloud Shell, a small free Linux instance with several tools pre-installed and configured like OCI CLI and languages like Java, Node, Python, and more. You can close Cloud Shell now, confirm with exit. The next one is Announcements for updates from Oracle Cloud. The following is the Help icon, where you can find documentation links, chat with us, post questions in our forums, and finally, create a support request and request a limit increase. The next icon is to change the language, and the final one is the Profile icon, where you can see your user information, your tenancy, and the Sign Out button. After a while, the message saying that your account is being set up will disappear. After a few minutes, you will also receive a Getting Started email and another one when your trial account is fully provisioned. Use the button in the email to sign in whenever you want in the future. You are all set up to enjoy your new Oracle Cloud account. Happy hacking!
All right, and with that, Mike, I'll let you take it away.
Great, thank you, Tara. All right, so we kind of covered the general topic, and over the course of the presentation today, it will be a combination of Dario and I. And we have actually several official Oracle Live Labs for Oracle NoSQL, and we'll do kind of parts of an existing one as part of this lab. This lab is set up on GitHub. If you go through the bit.ly link, you can go to GitHub. It's the Oracle NoSQL examples GitHub. And then from there, you can follow along as we march through this. But to begin with, we're going to cover some high-level things. So, probably a year or a year and a half ago, we put together a very detailed demo, a baggage tracking demo. So we had been approached by several of the major airlines that are out there today, and they, wanted to know, hey, could we use Oracle NoSQL as the backend to store data for a baggage tracking actual application? And those of us who fly all the time, I think all of us realize that, tracking your bags and wanting to know where your bags are at is very important in today's airline travel. So we have this sort of mock demo that we put together. And over the course of this lab, we're going to take bits and pieces of this, and we're going to show you the underlying technology and show you how we assembled this with a combination of the different OCI services that are available. So up on the slide, we have a QR code that, if you want to scan that in, you can actually, play with the app on your phone as we're going along, or you can do that at a later point in time. So why did we pick this kind of a demo? In various surveys out there, right? I mean, a very large percentage of the customers, they want to know where their bags are, and they want to have this information basically at their fingertips, on their smartphone. And there's a large trend. We see this emerging, and what's nice about this case is that the underlying data this is a real world use case, and the data is stored as a JSON object. This is the high-level reference architecture that is currently running right now. We are running in all of the Oracle OCI regions. So you can come in through a web browser, you can come in through your phone, it goes through a global DNS, it goes through OCI traffic management, goes through geo-steering, then the actual application that's running is on a Apache web server, goes through the OCI API gateway, then through a Tomcat server, and then to the Oracle database. If we break this architecture down in a little bit more detail. We have basically Oracle Geo-Steering. We go through WAF. WAF is a web application firewall. Always something that's good to put on any type of your applications for security reasons to make sure that we're getting the right people basically sent to the deeper parts of the application. We developed the application itself with Visual Builder. We've connected in Apiary, which we will show later on. We also had the use of the digital assistant. Here in this, we're showing you basically the Visual Builder components. Let me go back. We're showing you the Visual Builder components. We're not going to dig too deeply into the Visual Builder for this particular lab. We could plan an additional lab where we can cover that in a lot more detail because there's a lot sort of involved in getting that component set up. In here, we have basically an Ask connector where you can have connections and where you can pop up a chat. So it's a fairly sort of complex demo that we had put together. Next, I want to cover this one. So this really shows the two aspects of the demo that we're going to cover today. Up on the top line, we have going through basically the OCI regions. So where you see each of the little cell phones there, that's basically representative of a different OCI region, right? And then one path through there is basically going through the API, through functions to the Oracle NoSQL database. So what we're going to show in the lab today is building the API, connecting through to the functions, executing those functions, and pulling data out of the Oracle NoSQL database. And we realized that in a sort of larger type real application at a given airline, right, they're going to have some other database. We're going to call that the operational data store, where they are loading data into their operational data store. And then what we're also going to show in this particular lab is we're going to simulate pulling data out of the operational data store, going through Oracle Streaming, going through the connector hub, and then going through the functions that we set up earlier to basically load that information into the Oracle database, the Oracle NoSQL Cloud Service itself. So with the combination, we're going to show you those. Now, we're not going to focus a lot on setting up the Oracle NoSQL Cloud Service. We're not going to show you how to set up the tables, right? What we're going to do in this lab is we're going to fire off a Terraform script that can be used to set all that stuff up, right? So we basically have it contained in what we call a stack service. We will set all that up kind of behind the scenes. If you go to the Oracle Live Labs, one of the live labs that we have posted there today will take you through step by step on how to set up the Oracle NoSQL cloud service itself, how to set up the tables and everything involved there. What we wanted to focus on here was the API, the functions, the streaming, and the connector hub. So now we will sort of launch into the demonstration. All right. So if you go through the bit.ly link, it should then take you to the Oracle GitHub IO NoSQL examples demo events, and I won't go through the rest of the URL. But basically, where you want to make sure that you're at, if you're looking at that, is you want to be on the GitHub and the NoSQL examples GitHub. And what I'm going to do through the rest of the lab steps here is I'm going to bounce between kind of two tabs here, and then I'm going to do this in real time. Some of the steps can take several minutes. So, we'll, kind of throw in some audio and we'll talk through some of the steps that take a little bit longer. Some steps only take, 20 or 30 seconds, but, this way you will actually get a sense for how long, everything takes and what this really looks like in real time. So we already covered this slide, so I'm not going to do that. Again, here, I already mentioned with the prior slides, right, that basically this particular application is up and running today. If I'm in the US, right, then I will connect to basically one of the US regions. If I'm somewhere else in the world, let's say I'm in London, I'll connect to that region. If I'm in Germany, I'll wind up connecting to somewhere in Frankfurt, right? And that's all done with the help of the geo steering stuff that is connected in. We already talked about this on a high level. Let's see, we covered this slide. All right. So I'm not going to go through the rest of this particular lab. If you want to do that on your own, you can certainly do that. Task 1 explains the high-level problem. Task 2 is basically, loading the application on your phone, playing with the application. So task 3 covers that. Task 4 covers, in fact, we can go take a look at that one. That shows the JSON document that is stored, right? So if you take a look at this, this is actually a nested array. Oracle NoSQL Database Cloud Service handles nested arrays very gracefully. So you can have a very deeply nested array. And when you think about traveling, it's pretty easy to figure out why we need arrays within arrays within arrays, right? Because I, as a traveler, I might have multiple bags. I, as a traveler, might have multiple flight segments. My bag is going to go through, hopefully, all of the flight segments that I go through. Sometimes, as we all know, if we travel, our bags wind up on different flight segments, right? Because they get routed incorrectly. So it's very easy to see where a given bag, will have different flight segments within a given flight segment, right? My bag can be unloaded off of one aircraft. It can be loaded onto another aircraft, right? So we have these, various actions that occur on the bag as they're being scanned, as they're moving from, a different location to another location, right? And all of this kind of data is very typical of a real, airline application. So as you can see, it's a fairly complex structure. So I'm not going to go through task 5. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to jump into preparing the environment. So the first thing that you want to do is we have this notion of compartments. And, this lab goes through pretty much, step by step on what you need to do. So first thing that we need to do is we need to create a compartment. So I'm going to go in here and then I'm going to log into my tenancy. And in this case, I'm not going to actually create the compartment because I already have, but we'll kind of simulate that. So we'll just kind of log in here. As long as I type my password correctly, everything will be okay. Okay, we saw this earlier in the prior video. Today, what we're going to do is we are going to run this out of Ashburn. In the prior little video that Tara had put up there, right, we covered like the Cloud Shell and the editor, and that was kind of brought up in that one. So now if we go back over to our steps here, so it says basically go down to identity and security, go over to compartments. So we'll go over here to identity and security. We'll go to compartments. And then here, this is our NoSQL development tenancy that I'm using. So like here's my area. And we'll go down here because we're doing this demo under this one. But if you were doing this for real, you would go ahead here and then create the compartment. Compartments have the notion of a root compartment. And what compartments are is just basically a way of organizing your tables, right? So if you create a NoSQL database in the cloud service, you can put different tables in different compartments, and it's a way of controlling them. And then you can grant different access levels to your tables within the different compartments. So I already have ours created, so we'll just go on. We'll go down here. The next task that we have to do is we have to create authentication tokens. So we'll go over here and then we'll go to user settings. And then if we go back and look here at the instructions, so we go to auth tokens, then we're going to create a token. And then we put in some description for the token. So let's do that. So we'll go to auth tokens over here. And then we will generate a token. We will generate the token. And then we can go ahead and show the token. And then I'm going to copy the token. And then I'm going to paste that onto, I'm going to paste that onto Notepad. That way I have a copy of it. Okay, then we'll close it out here. So we generated our token. Down here we say this will generate the token. Make sure to copy the token to save it. Use the copy button. As you saw, I just did that. Yeah, I pasted it into Notepad. That way I have a copy of it. All right, so the next thing that we have to do is we have to go back to the profile, click on user settings. So we will do that. We're going to go back to the profile, click on user settings. And this right up here, this is my user OSID. So in the Oracle Cloud world, there's OSIDs for just about anything that you can think of. So all of the objects that you create, the things that you do, they have a associated identifier with them. So this basically identifies me as the user. So, and if you look at a given OSID, usually in the second field, it'll tell you the type of OSID that you're looking at. These are very long, and they're long because they're basically meant to be unique. So I'll go ahead and copy that. And then I will I will go ahead and then basically store that away as well. And let's jump back over to the instructions and then see if there's anything else. Okay, so it looks like next thing we need to do is we're going to go to the Cloud Shell. We're going to go to our home region, and we'll stay in the home region for the rest of the steps. And what we're going to do next is we're going to set up our keys. So we have it fairly easy laid out for you in the lab. It's just a matter of copying it. So we're going to go into the Cloud Shell. So just to check here, so make sure you're in your home region. So as you can see here, it's identified the home region. We're in Ashburn. So just to verify we are indeed in Ashburn, we'll go ahead and click here, click on the Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell usually takes 15 or so seconds to start up. There's a lot of background stuff that gets installed when the shell gets created. And then this allows you to do a lot of different things through the Cloud Shell. So I had already copied the commands out. So I'm just going to execute them, what I did. And looks like we're all set up. Right, so what I did was I basically executed these, and this just basically set up my private key, and then we'll use that later on. And then here, this last step right here, I got to substitute in my user OSID, so I need to go back and do that. So we'll pop up that last command. So this was why we saved off, keeping track of my user OSID. So let's go back and I'll pull that off of my, I'll pull that off of where I saved it. Let me do that. Then let me come in here and fill that in. All right, so there's my OSID. I will now go ahead and then re-execute this. That way that is all done properly. There we go, much better. And then this way I'm not getting the right here when I executed it the first time. I didn't mention it because I wanted to purposefully go back. But if you notice, I got, not authorized or not found, right? And that was because here, right, I had just copied and pasted and executed this initially without coming and filling in my particular user OSID. So as you can see here, after I did that and then I re-executed, then that went successfully. So fairly easy to do, really nothing complicated about it. Let's go on now to the next step. All right, here, if you recall, I had mentioned very early on, right, that we were going to deploy some Terraform scripts, and then we're going to execute some things because we're not going to cover in this setting up the specifics around the Oracle NoSQL database cloud service itself, right? So we're not going to go through setting up tables and allocating resources for those tables. We have that all built in right here. Right, so we're going to use and deploy a set of Terraform scripts here. This is built in. And what this will allow us to do is here in this, we have sort of a lab 3, right? We're going to totally avoid lab 3 here because we're going to do it via this setup right here. So fairly easy to do. We're going to click on this. So we got to sign back in. So we're going to sign back in. And sometimes this will pull the credentials off the prior window that we had running, which is over here, and then we won't have to log in. So it basically pulled it off of there, and so it looks like we're good. All right, so we clicked on that. We got the new window. And let's see, so here we're going to do this in here. We had said to do this in Phoenix. With Dario and I had tested this yesterday. We found a couple of issues with Phoenix. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to basically deploy this still in Ashburn. All right, so we're going to check here. This is in Phoenix, so we're actually going to do this in Ashburn. So we're going to move this over to Ashburn and going back in the instructions. All right, so we need to fill in a couple of things here. So click the box that we reviewed it. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's go through and do the next step. Let's see, it will populate the stack, the name and the description. Check the create in compartment box to make sure it shows demo NoSQL. All right, so let's go check a couple of things here. So then we got it populated. We're checking all this. For us in my compartment, I'm using demo NoSQL 2. You notice that the description is here. We got the serverless with NoSQL database, so that's all looks correct. So for our compartment, that all looks fine. All right, we're going to scroll down a little bit further, and I think we're okay now with this particular step. Okay, click on the next button to the left of the screen. Right now, that's going to move us to configure the variables. So let's go on the next, and it's just going to move us here to this step. All right, so the compartment that we're in is demo NoSQL 2. That's good. Demo NoSQL is correct. And then let's see here. You need to provide the username in the OCIR username box, and then the token that I copied out will go into the password. So if you remember when I set up the security, I copied the token. So let's go down here. So my username is just my Oracle address. And this will be the email address that you use to set up your cloud account with. And then we need to put the password in. Let me get that. That will be what we had copied earlier. So I'll copy that. And we'll paste that in. I think that's all we have to do here. Click on next, and then we go to the review screen. So let's do that. We will click on next. And we'll just double check everything. That looks fine. I know what my compartment OSID is, and it ends in TONQ. You know, when you create your compartment, you can, you know, take a look at what your compartment OSID is. It's always just good to kind of sanity check it. That's correct. Here, you have we have a always free NoSQL service. We're not going to use that here. The always free NoSQL cloud service is located in Phoenix. You basically have limited resources there. So I'm not going to use that here, but you know, I think this will work with the always free. So that all looks good. We'll go back to the directions here. We went to the review screen. And then we will go ahead and run the job. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to hit create. So this is going to basically do, so this is accepted. Now this is going to run for a little bit. So this is going to download this Terraform script. It's going to execute it. And it's going to build some of the underlying components that we need for the rest of the work that we need to do. So we're just going to go ahead and let this run. This has been accepted. So while this job is running, you know, it tells you you can go take a look at the log. You know, the log is working here. And like I said, this is just going to go through and do the basic building that we need. See, so now we are built. This succeeded. You can go take a look at the log if you wanted to. I'm not going to take a whole bunch of time here going through that, but you know, it shows you all the stuff that we created. If you go down here and look at job resources, you can see all the different things that it did for us. So like right here, this created 2 NoSQL tables, a demo and a demo key table. It created some functions. This came along here and set up some gateway stuff, set us some DHCP, some routing stuff. So we had all of this sort of pre-canned, you know, just to help keep this moving along. Here, this will be a good one
just
to go
check
through.
On Mike, please.
Yes.
So just for information, so I am posting in the Slack channel some videos that are providing more details about how we did to create this script in order to execute the Terraform script. Okay. So I think that in the chat we have all you need to connect to our Slack, the ref. So I am publishing some more information for you. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm not going to go through understanding credentials and policies. There's a lot of information in there about doing that. This talks about you know, how to set this up, and there's a lot of documentation. So I'm going to skip basically now to this one right here to set up the function environment. Right, so here we need to go down to developer services and over to applications. So this we're basically done with right now. This is all set up. So this one I'm just going to sign out. I'm going to leave this one. because we just simply use this one to get the stack set up. So we'll go back over to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the Cloud Shell. Right, and then jump over here. So we got to go to Developer Services, then Functions Applications. So we'll go over here to Developer Services, and let's see here. Oh, there we go. All right, so we got to go over here. Okay, so under the left side list, okay, so list scope, compartment, and fields. So we're going to do here. So over here, we're just checking to see what compartment we're in. That looks fine. Let's see here. Click on the NoSQL demo application. This was something that we had built as part of the Terraform. So we're going to go ahead and click on this. All right, so we did that. Then we're going to go on the left, choose getting started. Okay, so we're going to go down here, click on getting started. All right, moving along here. Click on the Cloud Shell setup. And so if we go look, yep, cloud already checked. So that looks good. Then execute steps 1 through 7 provided in the wizard. All right, so we're now going to execute the first 7 steps here. So first is to launch the Cloud Shell. And then you can see, like, you know, this is all set up. You know, it's fairly easy to follow. So we're just going to go through and follow these steps. Again, starting the Cloud Shell. All right, so let's kind of scroll up. All right, so first we're going to use the context for your region. So we're going to set this up. So that looks okay. We'll copy this one and we'll check this one. And if I remember, we said that, you know, we wanted to use our context of Ashburn. So we do have our context here set up correctly. Next one, we're going to update the context with the functions compartment ID. And then, you know, when you execute this in your environment, right, this will be set up correctly for you. I just know that, you know, my compartment, which is demo NoSQL 2, you know, that ends in TONQ. So I know that this is my correct compartment. So we're going to go to here. And in this one, copy this one out. So in this one, we have this little repo name prefix. Usually, if you see this, and you know, we already did this once before. If you see this in any of our live lab, usually means you have to go do something, right? So we'll just kind of we'll go back up here in the directions, right? And then you can see here in step 4, right? Replace OCIR repo with demo NoSQL, right? So this was what we had set up in the prior step, right? So we're going to come along here and remove this demo NoSQL, and then that should be good there for step 4. All right, so we'll do that. Now we'll go on down to step 5, generate authentication token. So if you remember, back in lab 2, I already generated the authentication token. So if you look at the instructions, right, you do not need to generate another authentication token. This token was generated basically in step 2. So we don't really need to do step 5. So now step 6, we will actually do the login, and then it will basically verify that the token is good. So we will go ahead and do step 6. Okay, the password. So the password is here, step 6, it will ask for a password. So I have to paste in my authentication token. So if you hadn't done it earlier in the lab, which if you execute it in the correct order, you will have do that. But then you, again, if you do it in step 5, you got to make sure you keep a copy of it. So I'm just going to go grab mine, copy it. Let's go over here. I will paste it in. And if you notice, it doesn't show it. So, you just got to make sure that you did, that you actually did it. And here I got login successful. So just something to highlight there is that when you paste the password in, it's not going to show it to you. It's not going to type it. You got to be, yeah, did I really hit, the paste key? And, when I do that, then I get login succeeded. And then finally here, we'll go and, verify that everything was set up, right? And really what we're doing here is we set up NoSQL demos. That was our package. We did that through the Terraform script. As Dario mentioned, we will have a couple of videos that we put up on the Slack channel that was set up, and then you can cover how to do that, and we'll cover that in more detail. All right, next is task 6. All right, so execute the following in the Cloud Shell. And if you notice where we were left with, we're already in the Cloud Shell, right? So we don't have to start up the Cloud Shell again. We're good here. So we're going to copy this and copy, and we'll go over here and we'll execute these now out of the Cloud Shell. All right, and so we did that. Okay, and exit Cloud Shell. And I have to do one extra step here. And I will show you that. So basically, we set up all this stuff kind of ahead of time, right? And then here we have the keys, and we actually preload with some baggage tracking data. Baggage data. So, if you want on your own, you can go into that directory. I'm going to go into this directory here. Again, this is part of the bundle that we had set up. And then
just for information, the .ts files are the Terraform script that we are executed in the previous.
Good, thank you for that, Dario. So if anyone has any questions with the c.tf, right? And all of this stuff was pre-done when we did that stack execution, right? So we had this bundle already put together through a Docker container, and we preloaded all this stuff. So, again, the idea was to save a couple of steps. So I have to edit this, and I will explain why here. So the default right here, right, if you see here, is root / demo NoSQL. So if you go down the directions, if you saw demo NoSQL, right, that's the compartment that we expect. And since I'm a developer in the NoSQL team, and we have a bunch of compartments, and I have I went through the list of compartments. I have my own compartment with my initials on it. I set up demo NoSQL 2, right? So I didn't use sort of the default, right? So I basically have to come along here and I have to edit this. So, where this is useful is, hey, if you have a complex tenancy and you have a bunch of compartments, right, you can really put this in any compartment, right? So if you don't use the default, then you would have to do this step as well. So I need my compartment. So I'm going to go through and go grab my compartment OSID. And let me paste that in here. Looks like it dropped off the O, so let me insert that in. All right, and if I said at the very beginning, right, when we looked at OSIDs, you can see here, this is OSID.compartment. So I know that this is a compartment OSID. And the other one that we looked at, it was OSID1.user. That was a user OSID, right? For our NoSQL table, those have OSIDs. It'll be like, you know, it'll be NoSQL table, right? So all of these have various types of identifiers. So I'm just going to write this out and then, you know, quit out of VI. And then let's go back into instructions. Now, we don't, you know, the step that I just did, we have right here, right? If you decided to deploy in a compartment other than this one that we have specified, then you got to modify env.sh, right? So I just showed that, how to do that. We don't have the detailed instructions on how to do that. Our general assumption is that, you know, folks attending this, that you know how to use a editor, and you know, you can pop the sh file into an editor of your choosing. I think that the Cloud Shell has a couple of different editors available. I just use VI in this case. So, and then here we're going to go ahead, and then the next step here is exit from the Cloud Shell, and we will do that. And so we'll exit from the Cloud Shell. All right. I mentioned early on where we're going to do this one, create tables. We pre-built all of that. Dario has several little video images and some video routines that he's going to post. We will try to, you know, give you some more information, some more detailed information on how to do this. But like I said at the very beginning, if you want to go and execute our official Oracle Live Lab, we do have a live lab out there. It will walk you through Lab 3. Or alternatively, if you want to look at the videos that we will post, you can use that as well. So now we're going to jump over here to Lab 4. I'm only going to do the first 2 steps of Lab 4. I will leave as a exercise, doing steps 3, 4, and 5 on your own. So task 1 here is basically restart the Cloud Shell. So we're going to do that. That is done basically over here. We're going to restart the Cloud Shell. All right, so we copy this one out. And we'll go ahead and do that. And all this is going to do is just execute the env. And hopefully you could tell by the name that what we're doing is we're setting up our environment, right? So every time we go in and out of the Cloud Shell, we want to make sure that we have reset up our environment. Here's some of the variables, right? So we're basically doing this out of Ashburn. This is my tenancy. I have my security information. I have my compartment, and then whether or not I'm using the always free table or not. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to execute some of the functions that we had set up with the Terraform script. So what I want to do is let's just quickly jump back up here and show you here what we're doing. So right now what we're doing is we had set these up separately, and then we had set up this up separately through the Terraform script. And so we want to execute these functions right now. So we're going to call these functions directly, and we're going to take a look at some of the data here to make sure that this piece is working. Then we're going to move towards setting up the APIs and setting up the endpoints, and then executing through there. So really what we're doing is we're going step by step here. We just want to make sure that everything is working as we're kind of building out. So let's go back here. So we were in Lab 4. we restarted the Cloud Shell. So we're going to copy this.
So just a little moment now. So
yes.
Here, as you are looking, we will deploy the function. It means that in this live lab, we will not code, okay? Because in the expert, that's the next level, we will show you how to code to create those functions. Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Yep, thank you. And this takes a little bit. And as Dario said, what we're trying to do is we are building out these sort of live labs, kind of bit by bit, and we're sort of growing this. And so, some of the things that we don't have done yet, we just basically are executing on your behalf. And also, some of these we feel require a little bit more knowledge, right? And so what we have posted on the live lab today is what we call as our sort of beginner lab. This one that I'm walking you through step by step, we're kind of calling this our intermediate lab. And then, we are in the process of putting together our advanced lab, or expert lab, as Dario called it. All right, so we're going through and executing that one. And looks like that's all executing. So then what we can do is we'll go to task 2 here. Now, within the Oracle NoSQL Database Cloud Service, we are a full sort of multi-model cloud service. You can create your tables with a fixed schema model. You can do your tables with a schemaless model. Both of them work. We use the SQL language to access the data. And so whichever sort of modeling works best for your particular application, you can use one or the other. For this one, as I mentioned very early on when I gave the highlight, this one is using the schemaless model. So what this is going to do is this is going to basically, load 5 records into our database, and it's going to invoke our demo keyload function that we already have built. So let's copy that. This one is almost done, so we got to wait for this one to finish. This is moving along. Let's see, anything else I can cover here while we're waiting for that to finish? I don't think so, but maybe it's a good time that if anyone has any questions that they want to post on the Q&A, we'll get those addressed. Both Kieran and Dario are monitoring that and answering your questions as we go along. And like I said, we're showing you this in real time. Good thing is so far, everything looks good. Everything is succeeding. Look, from time to time, things do happen where errors occur, and then you have to go in and do some debugging, take a look at the logs, and try to figure out what happened, and then repeat the steps. Dario and I, when we put the steps together for the live labs, we tried to do everything that we could to make them foolproof. Unfortunately, nothing is ever 100% perfect. So, errors do happen, and you have to debug those. If you do wind up executing it and you get some error, we have that Slack channel in the DevRel workspace. Feel free to post something there. Going forward here for the next week or two, Dario and I will monitor that. Something does happen. We want to be here to support you. So we'll go ahead and copy this, and then we'll execute this now since the other stuff finished. The first one always takes a little bit longer, and then the other ones will then execute behind it. But what we're doing is we're going to take these 5 records, and then we're going to load them into the database. So I don't know, Dario, if you had any comments. All right, so it looks like we're loading. Let's get the last record loaded. And then I'm going to skip this step. So this step right here, this loads it into table demo key value. So we just loaded 5 there. And then what this next step does, this loads it into a different table called demo. So, and that's the table that we're primarily going to use. So let me get those ones loaded. And once the functions get loaded, it certainly goes much quicker. And then we can go here and we can go then take a look at the data. So I will do that real quick. Okay, so we are going to go over here. So the NoSQL is under databases. If you go under databases, you'll see Oracle NoSQL database. We go to tables. We'll go ahead and reduce that. Okay, so we had created 2 tables as part of our Terraform scripts. So right here, we'll go over into the demo table. If you scroll down, we can do explore data. And we'll just execute this. And then, as I said, we had loaded 5 records in for you. And then here are the 5 records that we had loaded in. So we go back over to instructions. We basically just did step 4. I will leave steps 3, 4, and 5 as a exercise that you as the participant can do. Here we're showing you reading data through a Node.js application. We show you reading data through a Python CLI application. So there's a lot of different ways to access data through Oracle NoSQL. All right, so the next is to deploy the API gateway. All right, so let's just take a quick step back here. Let's go look at this picture, kind of zero in on what we're doing. So we just did this right here, and we loaded data. We loaded data into 2 different tables. So now we're going to take a step back, and now we're going to set up the API gateway, and then go through the steps in setting up that. All right, so let's go down to lab number 4. And let's get into deploying an API gateway. So it looks like we don't need to be in the, this right now. So we will go ahead and exit out of the Cloud Shell.
Just a comment here, Mike.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we deploy, we create a container image that we put in our container repository. So as you can see here, we are not deploying any VM. We are not deploying any kernel cluster. We are just invoking. So that is a serverless service that we call OCI function. So every time that you are invoking, behind the scenes, we are pulling the image from our container repository, and then we are executing. So we are doing all of this for you. Okay, that's the point.
Good, thank you, Dario. All right, so we need to go back into the OCI console. Let's see, it looks like we need to go to developer services, then we're going to go over here to API management. So let's do that. We're going to go over here to developer services. Let's see, API management's right here. So we're going to click on API management. All right. Then we have here, create gateway. So let's see here. Click on create gateway. I don't think I missed any steps. Okay, click on create gateway. This opens up a new window. So we're going to go here. We got the gateway. So we're going to create a new gateway. This was one that we were testing with earlier. If you notice, it's been deleted. So we're going to go here, click on create gateway. All right, so we got to fill in a couple of things. We got to enter baggage tracking for the name. We want to make sure it's set up as public. So let's go through here and do these steps. All right, so baggage. Tracking, set up as public. Always double check the compartment. My compartment is demo NoSQL 2. We recommend demo NoSQL, but yours could certainly be something different. So that's all done. Let's see here. We need to go through and check these other steps out here. So we're going to go here, virtual cloud network. So if you go here, it should be VCN NoSQL demos. So we're going to do that. So we select that one, VCN NoSQL demos. We got to select that value. That should be public, the public subnet. So we're going to go here. We're going to set this up as a public subnet. Now, you may, when you're doing a real application, you may want to do a private subnet, right? Here, just for the sake of this demo, we're going to put this up on public. And then let's kind of scroll down here. The rest of this all looks good. And this screen shows you what you need to have set up. And then when we're done, here we mention, set up the network as a public subnet. And then we can go ahead and create the gateway. Okay, so it tells you that the baggage tracking is being created. So while that is off and running, it gives you a little status over here. So in a few seconds, the gateway is created. So we're waiting for it to change from creating to active. And then eventually we want to move to deployments, which is down here, but we got to wait for this guy to be fully created. So that's what we're waiting for. Dario, do you have any kind of comments that you want to fill in here while we're basically creating the particular API gateway?
Yes, for example, in this case, we are creating a public. So it means that our clients of the application can access from the internet. So that is the case for this baggage tracking, because, for example, when I am using my mobile phone will call everything goes through the gateway. So this is a public endpoint. But when we are communicating with the function, so we are communicating in a private network. So that is the way that we are securizing this. So it means that all our servers are protected because those are in a private network, but we are publishing the API to the public using this. So that is why it's interesting. If you please go to the host name and
there we go. So we are finally active. So now our gateway is set up. So what did you want me to look at?
Can you show the host name?
What did you want me to click on?
Sorry, I provide you.
Host name here.
Yeah, host name. Yeah.
Yep.
So as you can see here, we have a host name that is in our DNS. But we can change this, and of course we can use your own DNS. Okay, so here we have the IP address, so we just need to configure your DNS to say, okay, when we are going to this application, we will go to this IP address. Okay, that's all, Mike.
Good, thank you. All right, so this guy is now active, so we can go here to the next step. So here we got on the left, choose deployments, click on create deployment, and then we got a couple of things to fill in. So we can go down here to deployments, click on create deployment, and then we got a few things to fill in. So we got to make sure that it's from scratch. Check, that's already checked, that looks good. All right, so the name should be baggage tracking. The path should be /baggage demo. All right, so let's do here. baggage tracking, and I think this was baggage demo, baggage tracking, baggage demo. Then click next. Other information doesn't have to get done. All right, so I always like to just double check to make sure that I'm in the right compartment. So nothing else on this needs to be set up, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do here through the API gateway. You can configure CORS, you can do various TLS certificates, or often referred to as SSL certificates. You can set up rate limiting, right? So there's a lot of different things that you can do here. We just don't need them for our particular demo. So we're going to click next. Choose no authentication and then click next. So we have no authentication, that's the default. If you want to set up single authentication or multi-authentication, you can do that.
Just a comment here, so can you click in previous? Okay, so the interesting here is when I am developing, I don't need to think to the authentication because I will do the authentication using this service. So this service will take in account all the authentication in order to execute my APIs, okay? So as a developer, I don't need to think to this. So I just need to be concentrated in create my application and not to deal with the authentication, not to deal with the security, not to deal with these kind of things. But for this demo, we will use without authentication.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next step. All right, so we have a couple things that are required here. We can scroll down. We did that one. All right, so for the path /bracket API, we're going to choose get. Okay, so that's /bracket API. For the method, we're going to set this up to do get. Single backend is correct for this. If you remember from our diagram, we went from the API gateway to functions. So our backend type is functions. All right, let's continue on here. Let's see, we gotta make sure we do the application NoSQL demos. So we're gonna select NoSQL demos. Then we have to select a function. It's pretty useful, right? It tells you what you have to fill in. So we're going to use demo API for our function. So let's click on here. We're going to use demo API. And I think we're good. I don't think we have to select anything else. And then select next. So we entered, NoSQL demos. We selected demo API for the function name. Then we're going to click next. So we can go ahead and do that. So we come here and click next. That takes us to the review. I'm sure everything was set up good because we slowly had done this. So then review and click create. So that's our next step. So we go ahead and create. And it's off and creating our API gateway, which will then move us, basically connect to our functions, which we had set up prior. And then after this gets set up, if we go take a look here, we're going to wait, this should go from creating to active. Then what we're going to do is we're going to actually go through and execute using some of our endpoints that we set up through the gateway. So now we're going to basically test the next piece that we just added onto this puzzle that we're building. Let's go take a look. So we're still in, oh, there we go. Successfully created, active, there we go, good. All right, so we have it created. And like I said, I'm doing this real time, so what you're getting a sense of is, really how long it takes to, actually do these step by step. All right, so now we're going to go into the Cloud Shell. All right, so let's go get the Cloud Shell. And then anytime you go into the Cloud Shell, right, you want to make sure that you set up all of your environment variables. You do that again. All right, let's see here. Now we're going to read some data. So we're going to copy here and we're going to execute this. And so now we're going to go through the API gateway. We're going to go through the endpoint that we had just set up. And we're going to pull out some data that we had stored in the database earlier. There we go. Great. So here what we did was we basically went through the URL endpoint. We went through the endpoint of get bag info by ticket number. So we have to specify a parameter. So we specified the ticket number as a parameter. We shoved it through JQ, we piped it through JQ. That way it would get a nicely formatted output. And there we have that JSON output, right? So we basically demonstrated how we have this set up and this worked. We can go ahead and do another one. This command is a little bit differently. What this one does is it goes and grabs all of the records. And of course, we know that we stored 5. And then we'll grab this one right here. We'll execute this one. And what this one does is it actually is going to provide us a count. And that's the 5 records that we stored. So we cover here that each of these do slightly different things. The first one grabbed it by a ticket number. The second one displayed all the records, and the third one gave a count. Let's go ahead and do this one. This is another endpoint. So we'll execute this one as another endpoint. Yeah, let me go actually do the execution of it. Okay, this endpoint is now get by confirmation code. So we execute this one. So there we go. So now we execute it now by confirmation code. Now we're going to grab the next one and we'll execute that one. And if you notice here, we have get by confirmation code missing parameter. So we didn't complete all of the work for all of these APIs. We did that on purpose. We have this one set up because we didn't specify a particular value for the confirmation code. We just went to select all the records. That's not set up in this particular function ahead of time. And we will do another live lab, basically, how to set up functions, and that'll be much more sort of coding focused. We have other endpoints, right? So let's copy this one. We'll execute this endpoint, and here we'll do this one, and we'll do that particular endpoint. If you notice here, right, here we don't even have this endpoint even instrumented from a function standpoint. We give you some clues on what the SQL would be needed. We tell you what the index would be. And so again, the idea here for this lab is to just kind of give you a flavor of the different things. We have some of these we actually have instrumented, and other ones we don't at this point in time. Jumping back over here, let's go do task 4. So I mentioned that we used apiary, and apiary is a very, very powerful tool. We actually have everything implemented through apiary. We don't have it implemented at the function level. So you can go to this link right here, which I will do. And then this shows you apiary. And one of the ones that we had done was we had basically get bag info by ticket number. So if I go here, we actually executed this one going through the API gateway. Here we're doing it through the apiary. We'll go ahead and switch to console mode. Here's the ticket. We'll basically execute this through apiary, and then we can look, and then we see the record. And this was the same, record that we did before. Apiary is a great tool. You could specify your APIs either through Swagger or through some other mechanisms. It will build these APIs for you. It will create this documentation for you. You can certainly go through here. Here's one, get random conf codes. We can call this one. You can go through and randomly play. Here's kind of the various configuration codes that we have available. And you can go through these and play with these on your own. Here we just showed right here, getting this one, executing this one. I already showed switching the console. I kind of played with some of these already. And you could sit and use this. This is all set up again. So this is using some of the back-end information that we already have set up in this particular demo. So Dario, I don't know if you want to give any other summary before we move on to the next phase.
Yes, so here, for example, when we are working with people specialized in the front end, so they are using this documentation in order to have the data. So they can implement their application. For example, they can implement their mobile application using their favorites framework, okay? And they need that. So in this way, they can access to the data. So I am providing also some information for people that are interested in those kind of developments of the front end of this part. As we said, we develop using digital assistant. That is our chatbot platform. And in this case, we are using exactly this API, this REST API. When I am developing my mobile application, I am calling this. For example, as you say, the first thing that I will call is get random conf codes. I will choose one of the conf codes, and then I will execute gateway confirmation code. And the things that we are doing is for the people interested in the backend. This is why we did today. Okay, so we show how we develop this application. In this case, we developed this application using functions and using the API gateway. Okay, and here we are using Frankfurt, but as we said, it is deployed in all the regions. So if you want to know how to use another region, just let us know. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that last point. And I'll just highlight here, right? So we were running through the console. If you remember, our gateway was Ashburn, right? So we're going through Ashburn. We set up some data specific in Ashburn. This one, you can see here, this gateway is going through Frankfurt. We have a, for the actual mobile application, right? The mobile application has much more data in it. That's in a separate table, right? We're not going against that data. We copied some of that data out to go in our local. So, but here, just like Dario said, right, we're going against the Frankfurt API. All right, so that wraps up Lab 5. Let's go back up here, just do a quick summary of what we just did for Lab 5. So we just set up this right here. We set up this component from scratch, the API gateway. And then we executed some of the endpoints, and we went through the known functions that we had set up for the demo. And then that accessed the 5 records that we had stored in the database. And then what we did was we went through the apiary, we went through that, and then we went through that was set up through the API gateway that was for the actual, demo that was set up through the QR code, right? So that is actually set up and then you can do that. So that's what we just got done. So the next step is we're going to set up streaming and connector hub, right? So we're going to set those up. We're going to go through the functions, and we're going to simulate basically loading data from our operational data store. So we're going to now go through that particular piece of it. So that is here in lab 6. All right, the first thing in lab 6 is to create the stream. All right, so we have to go to analytics and AI, and then we go down to messaging. So we probably don't need this, so I'm going to go close this out. That was left over from the other one. And we're going to go to analytics and messaging. So we go to here, AI analytics, and over to messaging. All right, so the next thing that we need to do here is we're going to create the stream. And we write here and then messaging. And then we're going to click on create stream. All right, so we're going to create a stream. So let's go through and create a stream. All right, so we need to enter in the name. We're going to set up as auto create the stream pool. So there's two things here, right? You create the stream and then you create the stream pool. We're just going to default and use the default for the pool. Okay, so we do baggage tracking and then auto create. So here, baggage tracking. Again, always double check you're there. We're going to auto create the stream pool. And like here, we're just going to use one partition for the sake of the demo. You know, if you do play with this and you want to create more, right? I mean, through the streaming, you know, you can set up what your load rates are, right? The amount of reads and writes that you want through your stream, right? We're doing a demo. It's fairly low key. You know, we don't need a whole lot to do. You can set up your retentions time. So let's see here, click on create. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right. All right, so now our stream is creating, and we'll go down here, wait a few seconds. So we're going to go creating to active. All right, and then the next step for us is going to be then to set up the service connector. So here we are still in creating. It is done. So we just set that up. All right, so now we need to go basically to set up the service connector. I think we can go through here streaming. So we're going to go to streaming and then service connectors. If you see here, we show going to analytics and AI and then going to service connector hub that way. You know, you can get to it this way as well. All right, so I just went back to streaming, and then on the drop down, you can go to service connectors. So either way will work. That was the prior one, we deleted it. So we're going to basically go down here, choose service, clicked on create service connector, going through that. All right, so it looks like we're going to need a couple of inputs. All right, so let's see, enter in baggage tracking, and then set up a few other inputs. So let's do that. Okay. Double check that. Okay. We need to set up the source, and we need to set up the target. Source is streaming, target is functions. Okay, so we're going to go through streaming, and then the target is functions. And then I think think we're good. In the configures, let's see, choose default pool for pool stream. And let's see here, baggage tracking. Do I have to? Okay, stream pool. So we got to go for the default pool. Okay, so we're going to select that. Then we're going to go baggage tracking for the stream. And then I think we're all good. Let's just double check. Let's see here. I think in the configure. Let's see here in the configure target section. Okay, so we got to go on down here, configure target. So we got to go NoSQL demos. And for this one, I think it is load target. We'll double check because we're going to be loading data. Yes, that looks good. All right. We need to create both of these. Okay, that was create default policies by clicking the red button. So we created the default policies. And let's see, we should now have this. The policies are created. Yes, that looks good. And then click the create button. So we need to click the create button here. We'll go ahead and do that. Right, and then this will create our connector hub based upon the stream. And again, let's go back over here. All right, let's go at a high level again, just to kind of keep on refreshing folks for what we just did. All right, so we just created the connector hub. We created the stream. We told it to go through functions, right, which we had already set up. There's other possibilities, right, but we're going to go through the set of functions that we had originally set up when we set up the Terraform scripts. So now we just got these two basically set up, or at least they're in the process of doing that. Let's go see where we're at here. All right, so we went through task 1. And then we just went through the service connector. We went through that, got that set up. And that's all done. And now we want to restart. Let's see if this guy is now active. All right, so now we need to go back to Cloud Shell. So we're going to restart the Cloud Shell. We're going to do our typical setup. All right. Okay, so now we're going to invoke. So what this is doing is we're just going to do a basic test here to make sure that everything is working. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, let's do that. So this is just making sure that the load function that we tied things through, the load target function, that it's all working. And the function has to get loaded, and so the first time through that always takes a little bit longer. But this is just basically to sanity check the function and validate it and make sure that it is all working. Once we know that, then we're basically then going to go through the stream, and then we're going to load a bunch of records to the stream, right? And the idea here is, we don't have an operational store set up. So, we're going to basically load records through the JSON documents that we had downloaded earlier from the Terraform script. And then we're going to load those in, simulating basically going through streaming services that would constantly be pulling records from a real operational data store. So let's just look, there we go, that finished. So we know that the load function is working, everything looks good there. And just in general, we've done this a couple of times throughout this lab, right? We will build some components and then we immediately test them, and that's always a good practice to do, is to just, verify things along the way as you are creating them. Okay, so we're going to set up our stream to actually use it and invoke it. So we're doing that. Okay, so we're going to go look at the stream. So that is our stream endpoint. Notice that we're streaming through Ashburn. All right, we're going to do here. And what this is going to do is this creates a little for loop here. And this is going to, we had a bunch of data that we had already loaded, which I talked about at the very beginning. So we're basically going to grab the last 20 JSON documents and basically load them in through the streaming interface. And, this is going to simulate going from a operational data store. So let's do that. And then let those in. These should go much quicker. And then while that's running, just, what we did here is we have a little, sleep time here. And then while they're running, we can go over to the table and we can take a look at the data in the table. So let's minimize this. We'll go over to databases. We'll go over to the table. When we're loading this into the demo table. So we'll go over to the demo table and we'll explore data. And let's just add account star. We don't need to look at them. All right. And let's throw a space in there. Let's execute. Okay, so we have 20 records. We can go back to here and see where this is at. It looks like this is done. So we'll shrink this back down again. We'll execute again, see if we got any. Yeah, there we got a few more records that that came in. So we basically loaded a bunch of records. Let's jump back over here. One of the things that we can do here is delete the data. So let's go here and let's get rid of this. Delete. Let's delete all the data that's in there. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll do a select count star. We'll execute this. Okay, no data in the table, right? We just verified that. So now, just to make sure that I didn't do anything tricky, what we'll do is we'll just execute this code, right? And so we'll come along here and we'll simulate. Oh, hey, I got more records in the operational data store. Let's go ahead and upload those. Right, so now I'm going to go through and upload more records. These will come in batches. That's the way that the streaming works. We can't always control the batches. So now let's execute this. Oh, okay, we got 3 loaded. I'll wait a couple seconds here. We'll execute again. Now we got 7. We're still loading over here. So let's reduce this. We'll execute again. Now we got 7. And as you can see, I'm doing this in real time. I deleted all the records from the database. We are now loading a new batch of records into the database. And you can come in and watch this dynamically as all of this is going on. Let's see where we're at. Looks like we're still loading a few more records. Okay, so this is done. It may take a little bit before it gets through the stream, through the function, actually into the table. That looks good. So it looks like we got our 20. And you can do things like let's look at just we can, there's only 20 of them. There's not a lot, we can, come and look at all 20 of our records. Let's say you wanted to do here where gender equals, so we can pull, all of the records where the gender is female. Our console is set up that you can sort of nicely look at, JSON data, comes out in a very nicely formatted area. You can, basically execute any kind of SQL statement here from this statement. You type it in. If you do something where count, it's going to tell me that, it syntactically scans it. Obviously this wouldn't execute because it's invalid. So if I go back and, finish this, then, it tells me it's clean here. So, we have a lot of functionality and capability through the console. All right, let's jump over here. Next is the cleanup. And I think in the interest of kind of walking through, I'm not going to go through all the steps in the cleanup. I'll kind of do that outside of the lab. But there is a cleanup phase here. What we do is the cleanup phase is broken up into a couple of different sections. It is sort of cleaning up the resources that we created through the Cloud Shell. Then it's cleaning up the resources that we created through the console. So if you remember, when we created the API gateway, there were some resources that we had created there. That was done through the console. When we deployed the connector hub, right, we had the streams that we had to create. We had the stream pool that we had to create. We had various things that we had to create. All that was done through the console. And then up here in lab 2, right, we created a stack. We created a Docker image. We created a container that had kind of the initial kickoff stuff. And so we basically delete that using the resource manager to do that. So I don't think it's super important to see that. But we do have this cleanup. So when you execute this on your own, you can go through the cleanup phase. So to put a wrap on this, what did we do during this lab? We initially created the functions, then we created the API gateway. We exercised the API gateway, the various functions that we had built. We accessed data out of the database. We created the connector hub. We created streaming. We loaded 20 records through the streaming interface, through the connector, through the functions. And we loaded those into the NoSQL database. We actually then, went up here to the apiary. We tested some of the other functions that, or some of the other APIs that were built through the apiary. Those were executed against this sort of live demo, which is basically in this phase right here, right? Which is if you actually set this up on your cell phone. That was grabbing the data out of Frankfurt. So hopefully this was very educational and very interesting to you. And one thing I do want to mention, right? Never during the course of this entire lab did we set up a CPU, did we set up a server, did we allocate anything, right? So we basically did all of this. We set up this application. Basically, we just set up a serverless application. So I'll leave things open for a couple of minutes to see if anyone has any questions. This will be available, like I said, on the Oracle GitHub on the NoSQL examples. You can grab this, you can execute all of the steps, and you can do that on your own.
Okay, Mike, to bring this all together, right, if you can show that ndcsdemo.com, that URL, it has that functioning application, right? So folks can see how this app works in real time.
Okay, so I just went to ndcsdemo.com. Now, that is set up basically two ways. So when you do this through your cell phone, then basically what you're going to get is the cell phone application. If you do this through the browser, you're going to get what we call the employee portal. So the way that we have this actually set up is we know whether or not you're coming in from a browser or whether or not you're coming in from your cell phone. And that is basically captured on, let's see, that was on the other, that was from the other slide deck that I had. I think I had an image where I showed that on the original slide deck. If you come in through your phone, right, then basically you would go through these steps right here, grab your personal cell phone. So here we have NDCS demo. This is how it will look on the cell phone. And then we cover, here, track your baggage and basically using this actual, live application that's out there. And, we have sanitized data in there, but you can browse through that. So you can either go through the cell phone side, or you can come in here, which would be through your browser window, and then you can play with the stuff there. This is all set up basically such that it's read only, so you can search for bags and kind of play with that. But so anyway, that's that.
So if you enjoyed today's session, we'd like to invite you to join any of our upcoming developer events. That's at developer.oracle.com. And then we also encourage you to share with us any feedback that you have on the workshop, what you'd like to see from us going forward, and to reach with any questions. I'd like to thank Mike again for the fantastic presentation, Karan and Dario for your help and support, and thank you all for spending your time here with us. Again, we'll be sending out that recording to your email address shortly and keeping the channel open. So feel free to ask any questions in there. Check out developer.oracle.com, and we hope you have a great day and that we get to see you again next time soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.